The hum began subtly, a low thrumming from the experimental nano-antennae in Mikhail Travers' lab. It wasn't until large groups of people entered the room that the true, unsettling nature of the sound revealed itself. It reacted not just to bodies, but to thought density. This was the nascent whisper of the end, though no one knew it then. For centuries, mathematics had been a garden of orderly structures, a temple of axioms, the Euclidean plane under the watchful eye of rational gods. The discipline grew in predictable linear patterns, from the geometry of the Greeks to the calculus of Newton and Leibniz, onto the analytic rigor of Cauchy, Weierstrass, and Hilbert. It was a universe where everything had its place, and infinity was a distant, theological abstraction, untouchable, uncountable, reserved for philosophers and priests. Then came Cantor, the first heretic of infinity, who cracked the firmament. With transfinite reasoning, he introduced a new cosmology of size and hierarchy among infinities. The mathematical establishment recoiled in horror. His set theoretic monsters, uncountable infinities, cardinalities larger than infinity itself, were labeled pathological, teratological, mathematical abominations that should not exist. His diagonal arguments, like the blade of a scalpel, opened wounds in the Platonic body of mathematics, exposing raw, bleeding paradoxes. Yet what is heresy today often becomes scripture tomorrow. Cantor's heresies fermented, and from them emerged the theory of fractals, another family of mathematical monsters. Hausdorff formalized the notion of fractional dimensions. Sierpinski drew infinitely recursive carpets and gaskets, mathematical black holes of topology. Julia and Fatou studied chaotic dynamics that revealed the infinite self-similarity buried inside complex functions. And finally, Benoit Mandelbrot baptized the whole family, giving them a name, fractals. The aesthetic of smoothness gave way to the truth of roughness. Fractals were not just mathematical curiosities. They were ontological revelations. The ascent of the antennae. By the mid-20th century, the military-industrial complex, ever vigilant, caught on. With post-war advances in radiophysics and materials science, engineers began shaping antennae into fractal forms. The first models were clumsy spirals and logarithmic nautilus shells, designed to capture background radiation from the Big Bang, cosmic whispers buried beneath the noise floor. These early devices began mapping the cosmic microwave background with unprecedented resolution. New measurements of universal expansion emerged, fitting perfectly with inflationary models and dark energy curves. But the process didn't stop there. As quantum theory matured, fractal antennae became smaller, more efficient. New materials, metamaterials woven at atomic scales, allowed miniaturization to the point where an entire nested frequency array could fit on the tip of a needle. By the 2020s, fractal antennae had become standard in cell phones, medical sensors, and space probes. They were ubiquitous, a seamless part of the technological landscape. And then, something else started to happen. It began innocuously, as all disasters do. In that crowded laboratory at MIT, Dr. Mikhail Travers' observation, initially dismissed as environmental EM noise, proved chillingly prescient. Other labs replicated the effect. Teams in Zurich, Tokyo, and Tel Aviv discovered that with the right tuning, fractal antennae could pick up what appeared to be low-level neural electromagnetic patterns, even at a distance. The unspoken began to whisper. By the 2040s, military applications had accelerated development. Neural interfaces became standard equipment for soldiers. Exoskeletons, drones, even combat vehicles could be controlled by thought alone. Civilians benefited too. Paraplegics walked again. Quadriplegics piloted synthetic limbs. Neural mesh implants became as common as pacemakers, dissolving barriers between mind and machine, desire and action. The collapse of privacy. By 2057, the line between thought and action had dissolved. Concerns were raised, committees formed. Philosophers debated the very definition of self in a world without interiority. For a brief, optimistic period, it seemed humanity might choose caution, might impose a global moratorium on direct neural broadcasting. But the market and the insatiable human desire for connection, or perhaps control, proved too powerful. The final collapse began with a single product launch. In 2061, a startup called MindCore Solutions unveiled the Cerebral Transparency Engine, colloquially the Mind Reader. It was marketed as the ultimate tool for empathy, capture and project the real-time neural patterns of others. At first, it was sold as a consent-based app. Couples bought it, seeking deeper intimacy. Therapists used it to bridge gaps in communication. Social media influencers broadcast their raw, unfiltered thought streams, believing they were fostering authenticity, unaware they were dissecting the last vestiges of human privacy. But soon, privacy became impossible. Black market versions flooded the dark web. Makeshift multiphasic antennae, cobbled together from e-waste and nanofabricators, could be assembled in garages. The key was out. Thoughts were just frequencies now, measurable, decryptable, projectable. The digital echo of every unspoken resentment, every fleeting desire, hung in the air. Civilization was not prepared for this unmasking. Friendships disintegrated overnight. Couples divorced in droves, unable to bear the weight of unfiltered perception. Political structures, built on the social fictions of diplomacy and public restraint, imploded. Every hidden prejudice, every concealed betrayal, every unsaid resentment lay naked in the air like a cloud of radiation. Trust became a fossil. Within a decade, governments fell. New empires rose on platforms of total cognitive control. Authoritarian regimes imposed thought discipline protocols, embedding fractal antennae directly into the skulls of their citizens, monitoring and suppressing unauthorized cognition. They sought to impose a new, silent order, the cognitive war and the fifth cycle. But repression only postponed the inevitable. The black market engineers, intellectual descendants of Cantor's rebellious lineage, found ways to counterhack. Resistance groups like the Silent Majority and Neural Sovereignty Front weaponized thought streams, flooding state monitoring systems with fractal noise, false mental signatures, and disinformation pulses. What followed was the first and last cognitive war, a global conflict not fought with bombs, but with the weaponization of human thought itself. Entire cities were plunged into manufactured paranoia, citizens turning on each other under the influence of engineered neural cascades that amplified distrust. Mimetic viruses propagated, spreading false memories and manufactured historical narratives, dissolving the shared reality of millions. Collective delusions, deployed like precision airstrikes, led to mass hysteria and self-destruction. By 2094, the world burned. When it was over, no governments remained, no economies, no nations, no shared reality. Those who survived fled to the peripheries, forests, caves, deserts, places where no antennae could reach. Civilization regressed. Language fractured. Technologies rusted. The silence was deafening, broken only by the wind and the fading echoes of a billion shattered minds. Once again, as it had 3 times before on this planet, and countless times on others, the loop had closed. The pattern was universal. Always the same sequence. Emergence of self-aware cognition. Development of recursive mathematics. Birth of fractal antennae. Cognitive exposure. Collapse. The 4th cycle had ended. The 5th would begin again, slowly, beneath layers of sediment and forgotten knowledge. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, under ruins of cities whose names no one remembered, broken multiphasic antennae still hummed quietly in the dark, listening, waiting, a silent testament to the loop endlessly tightening. because the fractal listens forever.